She helped a millionaire cowboy repair his wagon wheel. Next day, a strange wagon pulled up. The dust storm had ended just before sunset. Long lines of red sand still move across the open land of Kestrel, 9 like slow waves on a dry sea. Above them, the sky burned in orange and gold. Far away, the 2 small moons of the frontier planet were already rising. The wind carried the smell of heated metal, engine smoke, and wild grass from the lower plains. On that world, people still loved older traditions. They wore hats with wide brims. They rode long-range hovers, saddles across open ranch land. They called their transport wagons, even when those wagons floated half a meter above the ground on grav wheels and carried more technology than the first colony ships. And among the richest men on that planet was Elias Vance. People called him the millionaire cowboy. He owned huge atmospheric ranches outside the trade routes of South Kestrel. His herds were not cattle, but massive 6-legged creatures called stormhorns, beasts with hard blue hides and glowing eyes that could survive toxic rain and thin air. His name was known in every small town, every fuel station, and every repair yard between the Eastern Canyon Line and the Northern Ice Shelf. Some said Elias Vance was too proud. Some said he was fair. Most agreed on one thing. He never asked for help unless he truly needed it. That evening he needed it. His supply wagon had stopped just outside a poor settlement called Briar's Hollow, a cluster of patched metal homes, solar roofs, and old water tanks standing against the empty land. The wagon leaned slightly to one side, its left rear grav wheel flickering with weak blue sparks. 3 of his hired hands had already looked at it. A mechanic from the settlement had tried. Even Elias himself had crawled under the chassis with a light torch and toolkit. Nothing worked. The wheel kept whining, shaking, then shutting down. "If it fails fully," said one of the ranch hands, wiping sweat from his face, "the whole axle mount could burn out." Elias stood straight and removed his gloves. He was a tall man with weather-cut features, a dark coat, and a hat that had seen too many storms to count. He looked at the broken wheel with calm eyes, but his jaw had gone tight. "We're not staying out here all night," he said. The settlement mechanic scratched his neck. "I'm telling you, sir, the stabilizer's gone. You need a factory part." Elias looked toward the small town. A few people had gathered at a careful distance. On frontier worlds, trouble often came dressed like bad luck. A broken transport, a missing power cell, a sick herd animal. Small things could turn into dangerous things fast. Then a voice came from behind the watching crowd. "The stabilizer is not gone." Heads turned. A girl stepped forward. She looked no older than 17. She wore a faded work jacket with one torn sleeve, old boots, and gloves made from different materials stitched together by hand. Her dark hair was tied back carelessly. Dust marked one side of her face. A narrow tool belt hung around her waist, and metal scraps filled its side pockets. Some people in Briar's Hollow knew her well. Some pretended not to. Her name was Mara. She lived at the edge of the settlement in a half-collapsed storage shack that she had repaired herself. She bought broken machines, stripped dead units for usable parts, and fixed anything people were willing to sell cheap or throw away. Children liked her. Traders ignored her. Adults spoke of her in lowered voices. "Too smart," some said. "Too strange," said others. The settlement mechanic gave a dry laugh. "You think you know better?" Mara did not answer him. Her eyes stayed on the wagon wheel. "The stabilizer is not dead," she said again. "It is fighting a bad alignment. That sound is not failure. It is correction stress." Elias studied her for a long second. "You know grav wheel systems?" "A little." The mechanic snorted. "A little? Good. Maybe the wagon wanted a little repair too." Still Mara did not look at him. She walked closer, slow and careful, like someone approaching a nervous animal. When she stopped beside the damaged wheel, she crouched and listened, not with a scanner, not with a tool, just with her ears. Then she placed 2 fingers lightly against the outer ring of the wheel casing. Her expression changed. "It was hit hard," she said. Elias crossed his arms. "We rode through a storm." "No," Mara said. "Not from outside. Something inside knocked loose first." That made Elias pause. He had been on enough long hauls to know when someone was bluffing. This girl was not bluffing. "You got a fix?" he asked. "Maybe." The mechanic shook his head. "Sir, with respect, don't let some scrap girl experiment on a 1,000,000 credit wagon." Mara finally looked up at him. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes were hard. "Then you fix it." He had no answer for that. Elias crouched near her level. "What do you need?" "For everyone to stop touching it," Mara said. "And a thin coil pin, a heat probe, and something narrow enough to fit behind the regulator plate." One of the ranch hands opened his toolbox. "You mean like this?" He held up a micro spanner. Mara looked at it and nodded once. "That can work." Elias rose and stepped back. "Give her room." A few people in the crowd whispered in surprise. The mechanic muttered under his breath and moved aside. Mara slipped beneath the rear side of the wagon. For a moment, only the sound of metal tapping and quiet scraping came from below. Elias watched the wagon's light panel. The grab wheel output kept flickering in uneven bursts. After a minute, Mara's voice came from under the chassis. "Did this wagon receive service recently?" 3 days ago, Elias said, "at a station in Rock Pass." "Who worked on it?" "A certified tech." Mara was silent for a moment. Then she said, "He sealed the regulator plate too tightly." The mechanic laughed again, but weaker this time. "That doesn't cause this." "It does," Mara answered, "if the inner ring is already 1 degree off center." She slid back out, sat on the dirt, and held out her hand. "Probe." The ranch hand passed it to her. She heated the edge of a small metal seam, waited, then inserted the coil pin and turned it with perfect control. A soft click came from inside the wheel housing. Several people leaned forward. Mara moved quickly now. She removed the plate, reached into the narrow space behind it, and used a micro spanner in 3 short adjustments. Blue sparks jumped around her glove, but she did not pull back. Her eyes stayed focused. At last she froze, listening again to the machine. "There," she whispered. Then she reattached the plate loosely, not tightly, and slapped the side of the casing with her palm. The grab wheel hummed. The weak, broken hum changed into a deep, balanced tone. The blue spark stopped. The wagon lifted half an inch higher and leveled itself. No one spoke for a moment. One of Elias's men blinked. "Well, I'll be damned." The settlement mechanic stepped closer and stared at the panel display. Output stable. No stress warnings. No mounting heat. "That's not possible," he said softly. Mara stood and brushed dust from her knees. "It is now." Elias looked from the wheel to the girl. "What exactly did you do?" "The alignment ring was forced out of its cradle," she said. "Probably by a pressure pulse from inside the stabilizer, not by rough ground. The seal plate kept it from resetting. I released the pressure and gave the ring space to settle." "You learned that where?" he asked. Mara shrugged. "Broken things teach." The answer almost made one of the ranch hands smile, but Elias did not smile. He kept watching her, thinking. She had not used a scanner. She had not tested 5 different theories. She had listened once, touched once, then fixed a problem trained workers had failed to understand. That kind of skill was rare anywhere. On Kestrel 9, it was dangerous. Elias reached into his coat and pulled out a credit strip. "For your trouble." Mara glanced at it, then shook her head. He frowned. "You refusing payment?" "I did not say that." She pointed at the toolbox. "Give me the cracked plasma cutter from the lower tray." The ranch hand looked down in surprise. "This thing, it still has a good focus chamber," Mara said. "You were going to throw it away." Elias gave a short breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "Done." The ranch hand handed it over. Mara checked the balance in her hand and clipped it to her belt. Then Elias said, "Come work for me." The crowd went quiet again. He said it simply, like a man used to being obeyed. "You've got skill. My ranch always needs people who can solve real problems." Mara's eyes narrowed slightly. "Doing what?" "Repair work, field systems, transport, herd tracking, whatever needs a sharp mind." "That would mean leaving Briar's Hollow." "Yes." Mara looked past him, toward the settlement, toward the low roofs and rusted walls and old patched wires that crossed between homes. This place was poor, hard, small, but it was hers in the only way anything had ever been hers. "I'm not for sale," she said. One of the ranch hands shifted awkwardly, but Elias only nodded. "I didn't say you were." He placed his gloves back on. "Offer stands." Then he climbed into the driver's position while his men secured the cargo. The wagon lights brightened. The repaired grab wheel purred like it had never been damaged at all. Before leaving, Elias looked down at her one last time. "You ever change your mind? Ask for Elias Vance at High Mesa Range." Mara said nothing. A moment later, the wagon rolled away into the darkening plain, blue engine glow shining through the dust. The crowd slowly broke apart. Some people stared at Mara with new respect, others with discomfort. The mechanic returned to his shop without speaking to her. A few children ran after the disappearing wagon until their mothers called them back. Soon Mara stood alone. She returned to her small shack at the edge of town. Inside, shelves made from cargo panels held springs, burned wires, cracked lenses, broken drones, and machine parts that most people would call useless. A lamp glowed above her narrow work table. On the far wall hung drawings of systems she had never seen whole, only in pieces. Engines, harness frames, cooling lines, signal grids. She set the cracked plasma cutter on the table. Then she stopped. Slowly, she reached into one pocket and removed the tiny coil pin she had used on Elias Vance's wagon. Something black had stuck to its tip. She held it closer to the light. Not dust, not grease. A sliver, a manufactured shard no larger than her fingernail, thin as a fishbone, made of dark smart metal and lined with tiny etched marks she did not recognize. Her breathing slowed. That had not come from ordinary wear. Someone had put it inside the wheel assembly. Not a mistake. Not storm damage. Sabotage. Mara turned toward the small window of her shack. Outside, the night had settled over Briar's Hollow. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. In the far distance, beyond the old water tower and the black line of the road, a moving light crossed the plain. Then another, and another. Not fast like riders. Not loud like cargo haulers. Silent. Smooth, coming straight toward town. Mara closed her hand around the strange metal sliver. Something cold moved through her chest. The broken will had never been the real problem. It had been a question. And somehow, without knowing it, she had answered. Morning came slowly to Briar's Hollow. The sun rose behind a thin layer of dust clouds, turning the sky pale orange instead of bright gold. The wind had calmed, but the air still felt heavy, like the land itself was waiting. Most people in the settlement woke early. Water needed to be pumped. Solar panels had to be cleaned. Machines had to be checked before the heat grew too strong. But that morning felt different. The lights Mara had seen in the night were no longer distant. They had stopped just beyond the edge of town. Mara had not slept. She sat at her small work table, the strange black sliver placed carefully in front of her. She had tried to scan it using one of her old devices, but it gave no reading, no signal, no response. It was like the piece refused to be understood. That alone made it dangerous. She picked it up again, turning it slowly between her fingers. Tiny markings covered its surface. Not random, not damage. They were placed with purpose. A design she had never seen before. A knock came at her door. Not loud, not soft either. Controlled. Mara froze for a second. Then she slipped the sliver into a hidden pocket inside her jacket and stood. When she opened the door, she found old Mrs. Halden standing outside, her face tight with worry. "You should come," the old woman said. "Everyone's gathering near the main road." Mara stepped out. "They came?" Mrs. Halden nodded. Strange wagon. Never seen anything like it. Mara already knew. She followed her through the narrow paths between the houses. People were moving in the same direction, speaking in low voices. Children stayed close to their parents. No one laughed. No one shouted. When Mara reached the main road, she saw it. The wagon stood in the center of the open ground. It did not look like anything from Kestrel 9. It was long and smooth, shaped like a blade laid flat against the earth. Its surface was dark silver, almost black, but reflected light in strange ways, like liquid metal frozen in motion. There were no visible wheels, no dust marks, no heat vents. It floated, just slightly above the ground, and it made no sound. 3 figures stood beside it. They wore clean, fitted coats made of material Mara did not recognize. No dust touched them. No wind moved their clothing. Their faces were calm, almost empty, as if emotion had been removed. One of them stepped forward as the crowd gathered. He was tall, with pale skin and sharp eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly, even without effort. "We are looking for someone." No one answered. The man's gaze moved slowly across the people. He was not searching. He already knew. The one who repaired the grav wheel of Elias Vance's transport unit yesterday. A ripple moved through the crowd. Some people glanced at Mara, without meaning to. Mara felt it. She stayed still. The man smiled slightly. "There is no need to hide. We are not here to harm." That was the first lie. Mara stepped forward. "I fixed it," she said. The crowd shifted behind her. Mrs. Halden whispered her name in fear. But Mara did not stop. The man's eyes focused on her fully now. "Mara," it was not a question. "You know my name," she said. "Yes." "How?" "We know many things." That was the second lie. Mara crossed her arms. "What do you want?" The man studied her for a moment, like someone examining a tool. "We want to understand how you solved the problem." It was a simple repair. "No," he said softly. "It was not." The 2 other figures behind him remained still, watching everything. The man took 1 step closer. "The stabilizer unit inside that will contain a control fault. It was not visible through standard diagnostics. It required pattern recognition beyond normal training." Mara said nothing. He continued, "Yet you corrected it in less than 3 minutes, without a scanner, without reference data." The crowd listened in silence. "You were tested," Mara said. The man's smile returned. "Yes." "Why?" "To find you." A quiet shock moved through the people behind her. Mara's expression did not change, but her mind moved fast. "So you broke the wagon on purpose," she said. "We introduced a variable," he replied. "A very small one." Mara almost laughed. "Small? You could have destroyed the entire system." "But we did not," he said calmly, "because we expected failure." "Failure?" "Yes." He tilted his head slightly. "No certified technician would have solved it in the way you did. They would have replaced parts, requested support, delayed the process. And you wanted someone who didn't follow rules," Mara said. "We wanted someone who sees what others miss." Mara felt the sliver in her pocket. "You planted that piece," she said. The man did not deny it. "Where did it come from?" she asked. "That is not important." "It is, to me." He studied her again longer this time. "You asked the right questions." "And you avoid answers," she said. For the first time, something changed in his expression. Not anger. Interest. "Good," he said. "That confirms it." "Confirms what?" "That you are exactly what we are looking for." Mara took a small step back. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she said. "You misunderstand," he replied. "This is not a request." A low murmur spread through the crowd. One of the ranch workers from yesterday stepped forward. "Hey," she said. "No." The second figure from the strange wagon moved. Just 1 step. The ranch worker froze. Not by fear. By something else. His body locked in place, his arms stiff at his sides, his eyes wide but unable to move. A woman screamed. "What did you do to him?" someone shouted. "Nothing harmful," the man said. "Temporary control." Mara's heart beat faster now, but her voice stayed steady. "Let him go." "Of course," the man said. He made a small gesture. The ranch worker collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. Free again. The message was clear. They could take anyone. Anytime. "Mara, clench your fists." "Why me?" The man answered without hesitation. "Because your mind does not follow patterns. Our systems cannot predict you. And that scares you," she said quietly. That was not a guess. It was a fact. For a brief second, silence stretched between them. Then the man said, "Yes." The word fell heavy in the air. Mara understood now. They were not here because she was valuable. They were here because she was dangerous. We cannot allow uncontrolled variables, he continued. You will come with us. You will work under supervision. Your abilities will be directed, controlled, Mara said, refined, owned. The man did not answer that. Behind him, the strange wagon shifted slightly, its surface rippling like water. Mara's eyes flicked to it. Weapons. Hidden. Ready. I'm not going, she said again. The man's patience began to thin. That is not your choice. Before he could move, another voice cut through the tension. She said no. All heads turned. Elias Vance stood at the edge of the road. His wagon had returned. Dust still clung to its sides. The repaired grav wheel hummed perfectly as it came to a stop behind him. His men stood ready, hands near their tools, not weapons, but close enough. Elias stepped forward slowly, his boots pressing into the dirt. I don't know who you are, he said, but you don't walk into my territory and take people. The man from the strange wagon looked at him with mild curiosity. Elias Vance, he said, your presence was unexpected. Elias's eyes narrowed. Funny, I was about to say the same. You are not involved in this matter. I am now. The air grew tighter. Mara glanced at Elias, surprised. He did not look at her. He kept his eyes on the strangers. The man sighed, as if disappointed. This is inefficient, he said. Yeah, Elias replied. So is breaking my wagon to play games. That made the man pause. You noticed, he said. Elias gave a small, cold smile. I've been around long enough to know when something smells wrong. The man looked between Elias and Mara. Then he said something that made the ground feel even colder. She is not what you think. Elias answered without hesitation. Doesn't matter what I think. She's under my protection. Mara blinked slightly at that. She had not agreed to anything, but Elias had. The man's eyes hardened. You cannot protect her from what is coming. Mara spoke before Elias could reply. You're not here to take me, she said. The man looked at her. You're here because you lost control. Silence. You don't understand how I fixed it, Mara continued. And that means there are more things you don't understand. The man did not move. That makes you afraid, she finished. The truth hit harder than any weapon. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the man straightened. Final offer, he said. Come willingly. Mara shook her head. Elias stepped forward. Conversation's over. The strange wagon behind the three figures changed. Its smooth surface split open in thin lines. Light glowed from within. The ground beneath it darkened. The air hummed. Something powerful was waking up. The man looked at Elias one last time. You have made a mistake. Elias adjusted his gloves. Wouldn't be the first time. Mara felt the weight of the hidden sliver in her pocket. And for the first time, she realized something clearly. This was not just about her. This was about something much bigger. Something these people feared. And whatever it was, it had just begun. The air changed. Everyone in Briar's Hollow felt it at the same time. The strange wagon behind the three figures began to open. Thin lines spread across its smooth surface, glowing with cold white light. The quiet hum turned into a deep vibration that moved through the ground. It was no longer just a wagon. It was something else. Something built for control. Something built for war. People stepped back. Some grabbed tools. Others pulled their children behind them. No one ran yet, but fear was growing fast. Elias Vance did not move. He stood firm, his boots planted in the dirt, his eyes locked on the man in front of him. Last chance, the man said calmly. Elias gave a short breath. You talk too much. That was enough. The second figure raised a hand. A wave of force shot forward. It hit Elias like invisible wind, pushing him back 2 steps. Dust exploded around his feet. Behind him, one of his men fell hard to the ground. Gasps filled the air. Mara's heart jumped, but she did not panic. She watched, always watching. The strange wagon fully opened now. Panels folded outward. Hidden systems revealed themselves. Thin metal arms slid out from its sides, each one glowing faintly with energy. The smooth body shifted shape, turning into a low, Wide platform with multiple points of light. Weapons. Not loud. Not bulky. Precise. Dangerous. This is unnecessary, the man said, though his voice held no real regret. Compliance would have avoided this. Mara stepped forward beside Elias. Your machines are slow, she said. The man looked at her. They are not. They are, Mara replied. They wait for patterns. They wait for rules. Behind them, one of the ranch hands whispered, What is she doing? Elias did not answer. He understood something now. She was not just talking. She was thinking ahead. The man gave a small nod to the third figure. Secure the target. The third figure moved instantly, too fast for normal eyes. But Mara was ready. Now, she shouted. The ranch hands reacted, not like trained soldiers, like humans, unpredictable. One man threw a metal crate, not at the enemy, but at the ground in front of him. It broke open, spilling loose tools and parts across the dirt. Another kicked a fuel canister toward the strange wagon. A third slammed a control panel, activating an old defense drone mounted on a nearby roof. The drone was slow, outdated, but it fired anyway, sending scattered pulses of light toward the attackers. None of it was perfect. None of it was planned. And that was the point. The third figure paused for just a second. That was enough. Mara grabbed a loose cable from the ground and slammed it into a broken terminal near the road. Sparks flew. The screen flickered alive. She moved fast, her fingers working with sharp, controlled motion. What are you doing? Elias asked. Breaking their rhythm, she said. The terminal was old, barely functional. But Mara did not need it to be perfect. She needed it to be wrong. The strange wagon reacted. Its glowing arms shifted direction, tracking targets. But the signals from Mara's terminal interfered. Not enough to stop them, just enough to confuse. One of the arms fired. A thin beam of light shot out, but instead of hitting Elias, it struck the metal crate, sending pieces flying in all directions. The man frowned. Interference detected. The wagon system said in a flat, cold voice. Source, the man asked. Multiple. Unstable. Mara smiled slightly. Good, she whispered. Elias moved again, this time forward. He grabbed a long metal rod from the ground and swung it hard at one of the extended arms. The impact did not break it, but it knocked it off angle. Not so perfect now are you, he muttered. The second figure stepped in front of him, raising a hand again. But before the force could hit, a child screamed, not in fear, in anger. One of the younger boys from the settlement had thrown a handful of sand directly at the figure's face. It did nothing physically, but it was unexpected. The force blast came out wrong. It shot upward instead of forward, slicing through the air harmlessly. The man's calm expression cracked for the first time. This is inefficient, he repeated, but now there was tension in his voice. Mara kept working. She connected wires, broke others, fed false signals into the wagon system through the open terminal. They don't understand chaos, she said quickly to Elias. Their systems predict behavior, but only normal behavior. So we be abnormal, Elias replied. Mara nodded. Exactly. Around them, the people of Briar's Hollow were no longer just watching. They were fighting, not like soldiers, like survivors. A woman overturned a water tank, sending a wave of muddy liquid toward the attacker's feet. The ground became uneven, unstable. An old man activated a broken signal tower, flooding the area with random frequencies. Someone else released a group of small repair drones, their programming corrupted. They buzzed wildly, colliding with anything in their path, including the strange wagon. The wagon tried to adjust. Its systems recalculated. But every new variable created more errors. Prediction failure, it said. Recalculating. Recalculating. The voice cut out for a moment. The man turned sharply toward Mara. You are causing this. Yes, she said simply. You do not understand what you are interfering with. Mara looked up from the terminal, her eyes steady. You don't understand me either. That hit harder than any attack. The third figure tried to move again, aiming directly for Mara. Elias stepped in front of her. Try it, he said. The figure hesitated. just for a moment, because now nothing was certain. And in that moment, one of the ranch hands tackled him from the side. They crashed into the dirt, rolling, messy, unplanned, human. The second figure raised both hands now, preparing a stronger attack. But the signal tower overloaded. A burst of energy shot out across the area. Lights flickered. Systems glitched. Even the strange wagon dimmed for half a second. Mara saw it. "That's it," she shouted. "They can't handle overload." She grabbed the black sliver from her pocket, the one she had taken from the wheel. She looked at it once. Then she pushed it into the open terminal. The screen exploded with data. Unknown symbols filled the display. The wagon reacted instantly. Foreign element detected. System integrity compromised. The man's calm was gone now. "What did you do?" he demanded. Mara did not answer. She was too focused. The sliver was not just a tool. It was a key, a piece of their own system. And now it was inside her control. She twisted two wires together. The terminal screamed. The wagon's arms jerked violently. One of them fired again, this time hitting its own side. Sparks burst out. Metal bent. The platform shook. "Stop this," the man shouted. "No," Mara said. For the first time, her voice carried real force. "You came here to control us." She looked around at the people of Briar's Hollow. Dirty, tired, poor, but standing. "But we don't work like that." The wagon systems began to fail. Critical error. System collapse imminent. The ground trembled as the machine struggled to stay stable. The three figures stepped back now, not attacking, reassessing, retreating. "This is not over," the man said, his voice cold again, but weaker. Mara pulled the sliver out of the terminal. The system shut down completely. The strange wagon went dark, silent, broken. For a moment, no one moved. Then a sound came from above. Low, deep, heavy. Everyone looked up through the dusty sky. Something large moved behind the clouds. A shadow, too big to be a shuttle, too controlled to be natural. Mara's chest tightened. The man followed her gaze. Then he smiled again. But this time it was not calm. It was certain. "You delayed us," he said. "Impressive." The shadow grew larger. "But you did not stop us." The clouds parted slightly. A massive shape appeared. A dropship, descending. The people of Briar's Hollow stood frozen. They had won the first fight. But this was something else. Mara looked at Elias. He looked back at her. No words were needed. The real battle had just begun. The sky darkened as the dropship came closer. It moved slowly, but its size made it feel heavy, like it was pulling the air down with it. The clouds broke apart around it. A deep, low sound rolled across the land, not loud, but powerful enough to be felt in the chest. Everyone in Briar's Hollow stood still. The broken, strange wagon lay silent behind them. Smoke rose from its damaged panels. The three figures had stepped back near it, no longer trying to fight. They didn't need to. Help had arrived. Mara looked up at the descending ship. Its surface was smooth, like the smaller wagon, but far more complex. Lines of light ran across its body in slow patterns. No visible weapons. But that meant nothing. Elias stood beside her. "We can't fight that," one of the ranch hands said quietly. "No," Elias replied. "Not head on." The people around them looked at each other. Fear was back, stronger this time. Mara's mind moved fast. They had just seen how the smaller system worked. Predictable, controlled, designed to handle order, not chaos. She looked at the broken wagon again, then at the settlement, then at the sky. An idea formed, risky, but possible. "They don't understand humans," she said. Elias glanced at her. "You said that before." "I mean it," Mara continued. "Their systems try to predict everything. They expect clean data, straight signals, perfect responses. And we don't give that," Elias said. Mara shook her head. "No, we give noise." She turned to the people. "All of you, listen." They did, because now they had seen what she could do. "They are coming to land," Mara said. "That means they need stable systems, clear signals, clean ground readings." She pointed at the sky. "We take that away." The old signal tower crackled nearby, still unstable. Mara pointed at it. That stays on. She pointed at the water tanks. Spill more water. Make the ground uneven. At the mechanics. Break anything that sends a normal signal. Mix wires. Cross frequencies. At the ranch hands. Move everything metal. Scatter it. Change positions constantly. The people hesitated. This will work, someone asked. Mara looked at the dropship again. It doesn't have to work perfectly, she said. It just has to confuse them. Elias nodded. That's something we're good at. He raised his voice. You heard her. Move. And just like that, the settlement came alive. Not with panic, with action. People ran in every direction. Water tanks were opened. Mud spread across the landing area. Metal scraps were dragged and thrown into random patterns. Old machines were powered on and off again and again, sending broken signals into the air. The signal tower was pushed beyond safe limits. It screamed as energy surged through it. Children carried small parts. Adults moved heavy equipment. No one waited for perfect instructions. They acted, fast, messy, human. Above them, the dropship slowed its descent. Inside, systems began to react. Landing zone unstable. Signal interference detected. Surface irregularities increasing. The ship adjusted, trying to correct, trying to understand. Mara watched closely. Not enough, she said. Elias looked at her. What else? Mara reached into her pocket. The black sliver. She held it tight. This, she said. She ran back to the broken wagon. Elias followed. You sure about this? He asked. No, Mara said honestly. She climbed onto the damaged platform. The surface was still warm. Small sparks jumped from broken panels. She opened one section and exposed the inner system. The same kind of system that the dropship used. Connected, advanced, controlled. Mara took a breath. Then she pushed the sliver deep inside. The system reacted instantly. Lights flashed. Energy surged. External command interference detected. The broken wagon said weakly. Mara grabbed loose wires and forced them into the system. Come on, she whispered. What are you doing? Elias asked, sending them bad data. Mara replied. The broken wagon came back to life for a moment. Not fully, just enough. It sent signals upward. Wrong signals. Impossible signals. Coordinates that didn't match the ground. Gravity readings that changed every second. Stability reports that made no sense. Above, the dropship reacted. Critical error. Landing calculations invalid. Recalculating. Recalculating. The ship tried again. Lower now. Closer. But the ground below was no longer stable. Mud shifted. Metal objects moved. Signals overlapped and broke. The ship adjusted again. Too fast. Too many changes. Inside its systems, errors began to stack. Mara smiled slightly. They can't keep up, she said. The ship tilted. Just slightly. But enough. A warning echoed from above. Structural risk detected. Abort recommended. The three figures near the wagon looked up sharply. For the first time, they looked worried. The man stepped forward again. You are making a mistake, he said loudly. Mara did not look at him. No, she said. You did. The ship tried one final time. It pushed power into its stabilizers. Forced a descent. The ground below shifted again. A large piece of metal slid into a new position. The signal tower burst with energy. The broken wagon sent one last wave of corrupted data. And the system broke. Landing aborted. The dropship pulled up sharply. Engines roared to life now. Not silent anymore. Loud. Strained. The massive ship lifted away from the ground, rising back into the sky. The wind it created knocked people back. Dust exploded across the settlement. Mara held on to the edge of the wagon. Elias stood firm beside her. Slowly, the ship turned and left. Silence followed. Heavy, real. No one moved for a few seconds. Then, someone laughed. Another person shouted. Relief spread like fire. They had done it. They had stopped it. Not with strength. Not with weapons. But with something else. something the machines could not understand. The three figures stood alone now, their support gone, their plan broken. The man looked at Mara. "You have delayed the inevitable," he said. Mara jumped down from the wagon. "Maybe," she replied, "but not today." Elias stepped forward. "And not here." The man studied them one last time. Then he nodded slightly. "We will return." "Bring something better," Elias said. The three figures stepped back. Their strange wagon, still damaged, slowly sealed itself again. It lifted silently into the air, and then it was gone. Briar's Hollow was quiet again, but it was not the same. People looked at each other differently now. Not just survivors, not just workers. Something more. Elias turned to Mara. "You just scared off something very powerful," he said. Mara shrugged slightly. They were already scared. Elias smiled faintly. "That might be the problem." He looked out across the settlement, then back at her. "My offer still stands." Mara looked at the people around her, the broken machines, the repaired ones, the place she had always called home. Then she looked at Elias. "What kind of work?" she asked. He smiled. "The kind that matters." Mara thought for a moment. Then she nodded. "All right." Elias extended his hand. She shook it, not as a worker, not as someone being taken, as someone choosing. Above them, the sky cleared. The dust settled. And far beyond that world, across distant systems, a message spread quietly. A small, poor human settlement had resisted advanced control forces, not with power, not with perfect systems, but with something unpredictable, something impossible to fully understand, human nature, and that was something no machine could ever repair.